Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars, welcome to another of my top 10 lists, and this is once again another tag video. I was tagged over by Lisa at Lisa Loves, and this tag video is quite an interesting one, and it is your top 10 favourite moments in movies. Now this opens a wonderful can of worms in a sense of trying to remember all the movies that have invoked all these wonderful feelings and emotions over the years, and still managed to do so to this day when I watch them. So I've took quite a bit of time to think about this one, try and think of the films that have really held a special place in my heart, and with some great moments in them, and I'm going to talk about them right now. Now, coming in at number 10 on my list is Tombstone, in one of my favourite westerns of all time. Now, there's with all these films that I'm going to talk about, there's a couple of moments in many of them that I want to talk about that, you know, are really important to me. But there's one in particular in this film, and it is the showdown between Johnny Ringo and Doc Holliday right at the end of the film. And what makes it special to me is you actually think Wyatt Earp is going to be going to his death, and he's agreed to meet Johnny Ringo in a gunfight at the end of the film, and he knows he's no match for him. Even Doc Holliday has told him he's no match for him. But Doc Holliday is on his deathbed basically, and he can't help him. So Wyatt Earp's going out to meet Johnny Ringo, and then when the next shot we see is Doc Holliday has crawled out of his deathbed, beat Wyatt Earp to the gunfight, where the place where he's going to have his gunfight with Johnny Ringo, and faces him down one-on-one for one final gunfight. It's just a wonderful moment, the interactions between Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, and Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo. It is an incredible moment and really fantastic. Coming in at number 9, again an incredible film, The Thing. Arguably my favourite horror film of all time. And there's two moments I want to talk to in particular here that stand out in this film to me that make it really special. It's the first moment I want to talk about is the dog scene. That famous dog scene where the dog gets into the group, and he is told to put it away with the rest of the dogs, and then we all know what happens next. All the characters are then introduced to the Thing, and it's a really frightening scene. It's gory, it's upsetting because you're seeing dogs being hurt. It ticks all the boxes of horror in my opinion, and it's just really effective. And the next scene is the blood test scene, geniusly conceived and put together, where Kurt Russell's MacReady is testing everyone's blood with a heated wire, and you know something's going to happen, you're just not sure what is going to happen, and when it happens, boy does it happen, and you jump 6 feet off your seat. It's a massively effective scene that leads to even more horror. Coming in at number 8 is Dirty Harry, the iconic Clint Eastwood film. And the moment, again, I mean, you could pick many of the Dirty Harry films for great iconic screen moments. For me, though, Dirty Harry has our introduction really to the character of Harry Callahan is when he breaks up the bank robbery. When he walks across the street, fires his Magnum 44, and the sound of the Magnum 44 going off, we'd never heard that on screen before, is just incredible. Taking out these bank robbers, and then he faces one of them on the ground, points the gun at his face, and says them iconic lines, you know, about the information about the Magnum 44 and how it can blow his head clean off. And do you feel lucky, punk? Well, do you? I mean, it's just incredible. It sends... I've got goosebumps right now on my arms just saying the lines myself. Incredible iconic moment. An incredibly iconic film. And easily right up there with Clint Eastwood's best. Coming in at number 7 for me is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Now, not only is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan an incredible Star Trek film, which it is, But I've got really fond memories of this film, going to the cinema to watch the early Star Trek films with my dad, who was a huge Star Trek fan, and he really got me into Star Trek. And this is the moment in this I want to talk about is obviously the end, the iconic death of Spock. For a couple of reasons. It's really emotional. It's done beautifully, I think, in the film. They set it up really well, and the interactions between William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, they feel really genuine. And I was young when I first saw this when it came out at the cinema, and it was the first film I cried at, and I don't mind saying that. And that's why it's on this list, for that very, very moment at the end of the film. It still chokes me up when I see it today. It feels real, it feels genuine, it gives the film a real powerful punch at the end of it. And I remember being really, really moved as a youngster in the cinema. And for me, when movies do that, they're doing something right. Coming in at number 6 is Superman the movie. Now, there's a couple of things I want to talk about here that give me goosebumps in this film. The first one is just the opening credits. And I've just watched it again recently and done a classic film review on Superman the movie, and I watched it again, and again it gave me shivers. It always manages to do it, even now, still to this day, it gives me shivers. The opening credits, and then that's them sweeping credits, and that beautiful John Williams score, and then the Superman score kicks in. It's just incredible, and it blows me away every single time. And the second scene I want to talk about in Superman the movie is, it's nearly an hour into the film, if I remember rightly, until you actually see Superman for the first time. You probably wouldn't get away with it these days. But I think it's still a superbly paced film. And for me, as a youngster in the cinema watching this, having to wait to see Superman for the first time, and then you see him at the Fortress of Solitude, jumping off, as you can see in the picture there, and then flying towards the screen for the first time, the sense of excitement in me as a child, and even still as an adult, is very, very tangible, and it's wonderful. Coming in at number 5, The Shawshank Redemption. And again, there's a couple of things I want to talk about here that I think actually tie together and say a lot about the character of Andy Dufresne. One of them's a real shock, and the film is full of highs and lows. I mean, you could pick many, many moments in this film, but the two I'm picking are, there's a real low point in the film where the warden kills the guy you see in the top picture there. The guy that knows that Andy's innocent has got the information that could potentially set him free. Andy wants to go down the right lines. He wants to go through the courts. He wants to clear his name properly by the letter of the law, but the warden takes that chance away from him. It's a really shocking scene when he's shot and killed, and it takes your breath away because it's just so horrible and what happens. But what follows is what triggers Andy's response when he escaped from the prison, and the whole sequence when he explains how he did it, when it's explained how he did it, what he's done, how he's managed to get away with all that money and get himself where he needs to be, is really uplifting, really fantastic, and for me, those two things tie together who Andy is. Coming in at number 4, Raiders of the Lost Ark, another one from my childhood. There's a couple of moments I want to talk about here in this film, and they both, again, it's another one of those films that's full of goosebump moments, and I still get a kick out of watching it today. The first one in Raiders of the Lost Ark is the iconic scene where Harrison Ford looks like he's going to have a sword fight with the guy in the streets, and he just pulls out his revolver and shoots him. And I'm sure many of you know how this scene came to be, but he was supposed to have quite an elaborate fight scene with this guy. But at the time of filming, Harrison Ford had a bit of deli belly. He had a bit of an upset stomach. So they came up with this scene instead where he just shoots him. And it's just iconic. It works. It's funny. And it's perfect for the film. The second moment is his fight with the late, great Pat Roach near the end of the film, where he has that fist fight with Pat Roach, who's playing like this big, strong German soldier. In my opinion, it's one of the greatest fist fights of all time on screen. It's really intense, it's really fantastic, it's edge of the seat stuff, and it gives me goosebumps every time I see it still. as does, generally speaking, the whole film. Coming in at number 3 in my top 10 moments in movies is American Werewolf in London. Now, I have mentioned this before previously on videos, but I mean, not only is this one of my favourite horrors of all time, but the first time I saw this film, I would have been quite young. I can't just remember how old, but I do remember living in a place called Heptonstall in West Yorkshire. Now, Heptonstall, basically, you looked out your window and literally over there was a moor. It was like moors everywhere. It was very, very hilly, very Yorkshire Dalesy, if you like. There was hills and moors everywhere. So when I watched American Werewolf in London, in particular the opening scene where they're walking across the moors and hearing them werewolf cries, and then they're attacked, it really it struck a chord with me. Absolutely terrified me, and I wouldn't go out on the moors for quite a while after. I don't remember how long, in the dark and things like that. It really, really affected me. Terrified me, and it still brings that fear back to me now when I watch it. Sends a cold shiver down my spine, and my fingers get all cold when I watch the scene. Very, very effective. Coming in at number 2, the iconic Jaws. Again, another one of those films that is littered all over the place with iconic moments, and the 2 I have chosen for me is the first scene. The first one is the top picture where Roy Schneider, that iconic shot now from Spielberg that many people have duplicated over the years, where that shocking realization that a shark attack is taking place right then and there, and the camera zooms in on him. It's iconic. It's so influential, and it's shocking because you're in the same kind of shock that his character is in, Roy Schneider, and you really get that really effectively in that scene. And the next one is arguably one of the most iconic scenes of all time, where Roy Schneider is chucking the chum in the water. The shark pops its head up, and he utters the immortal lines when he walks backwards into the boat: "You're gonna need a bigger boat." Incredible, incredible. Again, you say it and you think about that scene, it just gives you shivers. Fantastic stuff. Spielberg is the master at them sort of things. And number 1 for me, it just has to be Star Wars. Again, I have mentioned this on previous videos. It's the first film I ever saw at the cinema, as I'm sure many of you watching of a similar age to me will be in the same boat. Never been to the cinema before, and then plonked down in the cinema seat wondering what the heck is going on as a 4 or 5-year-old. And then, boom, you get the Star Wars opening credits, the music, and you're just taking all that in. I probably didn't read a word of what it was being said, on the opening reel. I was just blown away with what I was hearing and seeing, and then boom, it goes straight into that opening shot of the Star Destroyer chasing the smaller ship, and it was just jaw-dropping. And it had me. From that moment, it had me, as it did the rest of the world. But it was intense, it was exhilarating, it was exciting. It still makes me as giddy as a schoolboy now when I see that scene. It is just expertly done, and I don't think George Lucas has done a better shot in his career. And let's be honest, he didn't really film it, the special effects guys did. Right guys, so there you go. That is my top 10 favourite moments in movies. I know I gave a couple of moments on a few of those films, but it was so hard to choose just one from some of those movies because many of them trigger so many emotions in me. But I've got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed doing this top 10 list. So many iconic films on there, and I'm now going to tag a few people to see if you want to do it. No pressure at all, and you don't, even if I haven't tagged you, please feel free to do it. There's no, just because I haven't tagged you doesn't mean you can't do it. So I'm going to tag you, Leo over at Geek Legion of Doom, Carlos at Eastwood for Life Fan, Jeff at 101 Bronson, Lost in the Reel. I've noticed you commenting on an awful lot of my videos these days, so I'd love to see you do this tag. and of course Blu-ray Ben. So there's some tags. If you guys want to take part and do this tag video, I would very much enjoy it, and as like I've said, anybody else that wants to do it as well, please feel free, or let me know in the comments what your top 10 favourite movie moments are. So thanks for watching everybody. I hope you like this top 10 list, and of course I will be back with plenty more content on the channel very, very soon.